Okay, good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started, and I appreciate everyone that's joining us tonight. I know it's a holiday for a lot of you, and so I appreciate the fact that you're able to take a few minutes, an hour and a half out of your schedule. So anyway, so we'll get started. A couple of things. I sent out an email earlier today to kind of lay out the final weeks here in class. In particular, week 8, the last week, so it's not this week but next week, your deadlines are going to be different. The deadlines are all on Friday versus Sunday, and the reason why we do that is I need to have enough time to grade those assignments so that you'll have your final grade before you enter another course. So that's the reason why we have to I have to pull back the deadline a little bit. So just be aware of that. And for week 8, your final exam it's called a quiz, but it's our final exam. It will focus primarily on the last chapter to the last 2 chapters. But I might throw in a few extra questions from earlier chapters. But there's nothing to trick you, nothing devious. It's just like the same quizzes we've been doing, but it will be, I might throw in a few extras from previous chapters. Okay, so that just for next, the last weekend here, just so you're aware, we do have an early deadline for your assignments. And for this week assignment, I just wanted to make you aware that I will be out of town, and I will be actually visiting my mother who has no internet. So it's really hard for me to get on Engage with my cell phone. So if you need to reach me, because I'm leaving Thursday afternoon and I won't get back until Monday afternoon, hopefully back in time for this class if all the travel goes okay. And anyway, so the idea is to hopefully, if you need to reach me, please email me just at my pswan@utica.edu instead of going through Engage. Okay, so it's just for this week only. If you wouldn't mind, just email me directly. You can put attachments in. I have my smartphone, so I'll be happy to look at any questions you might have about assignments. And I will bring my computer, so I'll have it. I just can't plug into an internet down there. So she's 81, is not going to do internet stuff. So hopefully we'll be able to work out any problems that you have. Anyway, and please, I appreciate your understanding on that. I know last couple of weeks can get a little crazy for you in some of your classes. Okay. So this week we're dealing with the survey. Again, remember last week we talked about different scales that you can use for your questionnaire, your surveys that you're developing. And we talked a little bit about some of the different types. So there's the Likert scale. There is the stable scale, which is rarely used. There's, so there's different types of scales that you can use. You don't have to use the same thing all the time. When you are doing your application assignment for this week, you will be designing your own questionnaire, your own questions, and you're also doing the form design. So, it has to look, it has to be readable, basically, and has to include some certain things. But please don't just do Likert scales. Try to vary it a little bit, throw in a few of the different ones. And if you can't remember what we talked about last week, just go back to the information that is posted, or just go back to your textbook on that. Anyway, try to mix it up a little bit, but that's what we're going to be dealing with today. Is we're going to be talking about what are the parameters you should be, the guidelines you should be following for a questionnaire survey instrument. Okay, let's see. When we're talking about questionnaires, one thing I do want to do is revisit, I think it was chapter 5, when they were talking about the observation chapter and survey. And just want to make sure that we go through just a few of the things on here. Is when you're doing a survey questionnaire, the people really want to take advantage of this opportunity to ask questions, right? But sometimes we go overboard and we deluge our respondents with, sometimes over 100 questions we want to ask them, okay? So that's a very bad way to treat our human subjects because everyone's got very limited time, they have very busy schedules, and so it's really, really important to identify upfront what is our research question. That's going back to week 1. What information, what data do we really, really need, and how precise do we need that data to be? So the first thing is to specify the information needed and then get rid of all the extras and just keep it really short and to the point because your response rate will be much higher if you stick to the crucial data that you must have answers that will help you answer your important questions. Okay, so that's the first thing to remember is just keep your, in fact for the application assignment, I think I limit you to only 25 questions, okay? Second thing is the type of interviewing method. How are we going to actually gather? What type of format are we going to be using to gather this data? And determine the content of the individual questions. That we're going to do an exercise tonight on actual wording of our survey questions. And then we're going to talk about ways to get over how do we get people to actually partake in this endeavor. So that gets into things that we can offer, incentives, or somehow provide information about how important this is to the organization, how it will help. There's other things you could do. And then what is the question structure? And we'll also get into that in just a little bit. Okay. But from, I believe it's chapter 5, I just want to make sure you're aware of the different types of ways to gather information via a survey. And there's basically 4 big ones. There's the telephone survey, which I'm sure most of you have gotten, on your home phones. And I understand cell phones are now getting, I'm getting some of that, people that are not on my call list, but I'm obviously on their call list. There's the personal sit down, and engage in a survey face-to-face. It can be in-home, it can be mall intercepts. So sometimes when you're walking in the mall, people will come up to you with a clipboard and ask you questions. And then there's also in the personal level, there's the computer-aided personal interviewing, and that's CAPI, and that's basically a lot of these research centers just have tons of phone banks, people with their headsets on, and they got a computer in front of them, and they're asking questions and getting the data that way. Mail, just mailing out a survey. You don't see that as often anymore, but that used to be back in the heyday, not that long ago, right, man? Not that many years ago, everyone did mail surveys, but not so much anymore because we have this fabulous thing called the internet, and we can just simply get on SurveyMonkey or other online services, and within a minute we can construct our survey and email it out to our distribution list. So, I mean, it's really pretty much taken over the tried and true, mail, postage stamp, envelope, mail them out. So we don't do that as much anymore, but telephone and the personal way as well as electronic are heavily used. And so I just want to make sure you're aware of those. Okay. 3 things to think about when you're doing a survey. They're easy, okay? When you're doing a survey, they're easy, okay? They don't take a lot of effort on behalf of, the administration aspect. They're reliable. Most people, you can get back some pretty accurate information, especially, when you're looking for very simple to measure types of data. And there's the simplicity of it as well. So, you know, it's not very hard. In fact, I just mentioned this thing called SurveyMonkey. They will even crunch the numbers for you, okay? So you can get back your descriptive percentages, and et cetera. And they'll do some basic stat stuff for you. Okay, but what are the disadvantages of doing a survey? Okay, well, sometimes we can't get information from people, and there's usually a good reason for that. Okay, so sometimes I may say, hey, Derek, what did you do last Tuesday night?
I don't remember.
Exactly. You know, memory is a big problem, okay? People just don't remember. So if we're asking them for information, they may not remember any of, you know, or they may not be informed to start with. So how do you love the new Baconator sandwich at Wendy's? Well, never ate it, so I'm not informed, so not experienced, okay? So it's not that respondents don't want to always give you information. A lot of times they're just not capable of providing the information. So it could be one or the other, okay? And then there are some people that just really don't want to put the time into surveys. The other thing about disadvantage of survey research is the structured data collection can be a problem with validity, with, you know, when you're trying to get really very difficult things to measure, beliefs and feelings, because they're very, can be very complex concepts that we're trying to measure. So a fixed response may be not quite capturing all the dimensions of the thing that we're trying to measure. So again, you know, if I were talking to you and we were doing a depth interview, I might get a much better explanation that way. And then properly wording questions is not easy. I know I have seen many surveys. I get surveys all the time because I'm affiliated with organizations that, you know, as a researcher myself, we love to send out surveys. And I have seen some very poorly done surveys done by very educated people out there, and it's just that they probably didn't pre-test their instrument. Once they had put together some questions, one of the most important things you can do is grab a group of people, just convenient, you know, whoever's around, and give them the survey and say, could you fill this out and tell me if it's clear? Do you understand what we're asking? And so often, that is the step that people just, oh, I know that what I've done is perfect, not going to be a problem, and it ends up being a huge problem. Therefore, all that effort is wasted because we're not getting the results we need. Okay, so pre-testing is very, very important. Okay, okay. Oops, I had a little mix-up with my ordering of slides tonight. Okay, a couple things I do want to talk about too, beyond the wording, which we're going to get to, survey wording, is this whole idea of how to actually design, format a survey. Now, you know, it's something that we should be thinking about for our application assignment too. So one thing to always remember is if you're asking people to offer to voluntarily give you information, you should be really talking about a small paragraph that explains what are we doing here, you know, a little introduction, and you know, you might say a little survey of the purpose or the objective. We're trying to better understand your preferences for our products, okay? And in the wake of Equifax, I think we all understand that confidentiality, privacy is all important these days. And so if I am giving you information, how are you going to protect my identity or the privacy of the information I'm giving you? Okay, so how many questions the respondent will be asked to answer? Right up front in your brief paragraph of intro, you could say, this survey will only take 5 minutes to complete. So you should time it out when you pre-test it. try it yourself, see how long it actually takes, because that is the one thing that really annoys me, I know, is when I get onto a computer survey and I start taking in it page after page after page of questions, and sometimes very complex things they're asking me to do, very time consuming, and I'm thinking, you know, when is this going to end? Okay, I have a class I have to go to in 5 minutes, and here I am in the middle of this, and I don't know where the end is in sight. So it's very helpful to people, because a lot of times I just stop. I say, well, this is as far as I can go. I got to go to my class, and I end the survey. Now, the organization still gets the questions that I answered, but they don't go get everything. If I had known it was going to take 20 minutes instead of 10 minutes, then I might have rearranged my schedule, or I may have opted out. Maybe say, well, I'm not going to spend 20 minutes. 10 minutes, yeah, everyone has 10 minutes, you know, if they're willing to help out an organization. So that's an important thing you can put into your intro as well. Another thing that is, you know, how can I, as a respondent, get more information about this project? You're asking some interesting questions, and maybe I'd like to know a little bit more about this project before I participate. So I would put my name and my phone number or email address in the intro, and then I would say, if you have any questions about the nature of this survey, feel free to contact me. Okay, that's a very common thing to do. And mention an incentive. Okay, we all want to be rewarded for doing something nice for some organization. So oftentimes, incentives, if you provide your name and email, we'll put you in a drawing for what would be a nice thing to give someone. What's a new gadget we could give? Oh, a drone. We'll give you a drone or something, okay? So, wow, that would be kind of fun. I mean, not everyone has a drone in right now, so maybe that might be something that might get people really excited and say, yeah, I'm definitely going to participate. Has anyone online ever been given an incentive to fill out a survey? Anybody in here? What did you get?
I got like a gift card for $30.
Oh, a gift card or credit? It was a credit card, gift card kind of thing?
It was a gift card for a pharmacy.
Excellent. $20. That's pretty decent. Okay, very nice. How about you, Derek?
Last year I got a Nielsen survey.
You did? Okay.
Nielsen House.
And did they give you money?
There was $1 in the envelope.
And the envelope. But you know, I actually did a survey where they had glued 2 pennies. I think it was from a nonprofit. 2 pennies in the upper corner, and they said, we want your 2 cents worth, you know? And it was really cute, and I knew they didn't have a lot of money, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cute. Okay, what else we got from our online people?
Paige got a $50 gift card to Amazon.
Whoa.
Ariel got a free donut from Dunkin'.
Okay.
And Nin said she's received various accessories like hand sanitizers, lanyards.
Okay, yes, that's great. I have gotten, like, I think there was this woman's organization, they asked me to fill out a survey once, and they put in an emery board, you know, to do my nails, make sure they look nice. It was a pink one, it was real cute. For Girl Scouts, when my children were going through Girl Scouts, I got a 5. I remember, now this is 20, 30 years, 25 years ago, $5. I thought, oh, that's pretty good for Girl Scouts, giving you $5 to, you know, fill out a survey. So everyone loves incentives. I know the idea of putting your name and a email into a drawing is very popular, but a lot of people don't want to give their name or their email out. So I like the idea of what these monetary, or a Dunkin' Donut, you know, free donut, those are great. And just upfront, give it to people, because then they feel obligated, don't they, in a way to actually fill out a survey. So incentives are great. Okay, so let's look at this. This is an actual format that you can use for the application assignment. So welcome to, and on your survey, you should have a logo of your organization. So if you have an organization that you work for, or if you don't, make up an organization. So you'll have at the top, you'll have some sort of a logo, and then you'll have this one paragraph, and it says, welcome to the company site usability survey. Thank you for participating in our survey. We at Utica College value your feedback as we take steps to improve our site for you. This survey should take no more than 5 minutes of your time to complete. Your participation in the survey will be completely anonymous. Now, not all surveys will be anonymous. Some will only be confidential, so I'll get to that in just a minute. As a thank you for your participation, your email will be entered into a weekly drawing for a $100 gift card. If you at any time run into an error or have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us and then whatever contact information you want to put in there. A word about anonymity versus confidentiality. What's the difference? I want someone online to tell me that. Anybody? I only have 2 students here tonight. I hate to pick on them the whole night.
Data?
Oh, I think anonymous is when your name is not given, like your information is private, sorry. And
Okay.
confidential is when the information is not shared with anyone besides the company.
Okay, so yeah, confidential means the researcher knows that I've sent out 100 surveys to this group on my list, 100 people. So I know that, you know, there's a good chance that Derek or Carmen might have responded. Okay, and there may be, by the way they wrote their comments, maybe I could further figure it out. So there, although your name is not on there necessarily, there may be ways to figure out still, because I have my list of people who I sent my survey to. Now, anonymous or anonymity, if you're on SurveyMonkey and you send it out, you know, and I have absolutely no idea who responded, you know, versus if I was in the class, handed out the surveys and saw everyone, you know, taking the survey. Okay, I know who participated. I don't know exactly who for sure in the comments, but anonymity means I have absolutely no clue who submitted. No clue. Okay, so that is an even better way to promise if you can't. So SurveyMonkey and those types of services are really great because they can send them out and there's no way to track back to people that respond. And that can be very, very helpful because people, again, they want to make sure that they're not identifiable. Okay, so that's good. Thank you. Okay, now the questions. A couple of things about when you're doing a survey and the questions. Remember, only need to know information, limit the number of questions, 25 to, is there, Matt, do you know, I'm going to ask you this, is there like a standard now that they're using in industry from your studies in the recent years? I mean, because
In terms of?
For how many questions?
No, I think it's more of time frame. Right?
Time frame, how long it takes, because sometimes you can get into very complex things that people could be asking you for a question. So time, but you know, 25, you know, probably would take less than 10 minutes. And that's where I think is a good area to be in, about 25 questions. Okay, so only need to know information. Break surveys with a lot of questions and group them by category if you can to organize your questions. If you want to talk a little bit about your experience with a company when you know your last visit versus new products, you know, and you know, so there are ways to categorize the questions that would be good if you have a lot of them. Okay. And then start off, this is an old journalism trick. You don't start off with the hard question when you're interviewing someone. Let's say you got a politician and, you know, there's been some talk that they're going to be under indictment or something. You don't start off with that because they might just totally walk out of the room. Same thing with a survey. Start off with easy to answer questions. So again, save more sensitive information for the end of the survey. That gets to questions like, when we're talking about sensitive, what might be a sensitive question for a woman of my particular age? How old am I? Okay. I may not want to answer that as my first question. Or household income, okay? Again, some people can be very funny about, that's kind of like personal. Do you really need to know that? Or my ethnicity. So sometimes demographic information can be asking some very probing things that you might want to actually put at the end instead of at the beginning, okay? A lot of people that want to just put the demographic stuff up front. Hey, who are you? Tell me who you are kind of questions. But save it for the end, again, because things like age, ethnicity, and other questions can make people pause and kind of question whether they want to get involved. Okay. And just simply use easy to read fonts. Don't go for the really super scripty, beautiful wedding kind of fonts. Those look beautiful, but they are very difficult to read. Don't go with a lot of different color schemes, white on a dark red or something like that. Again, very difficult to read. Just keep it simple but professional looking. Bold your instructions and questions. And think about this. Sometimes you should have a very short instruction to go with your questions. So, below, let's say we're using a Likert scale from strongly agree to strongly disagree, right? You would say choose one. Some people may want to choose a couple, okay? Even though you were like, really? But you never know. So it's always good for, the section of questions, please select one that best fits your attitude, okay? And be consistent. Even small changes can be noticeable to your respondents. And they may think you're kind of sloppy, and it may make you look unprofessional. So again, keep everything consistent and readable, and don't go for super fancy, just professional looking. Okay? And the last thing to think about at the end of your form after the last question, something as simple as thank you for taking the time to fill out the survey is nice, or we really appreciate your time. Anything like that is very helpful, leaves respondents with a good feeling. Okay, sorry about these. Couple of things about getting specific into the chapter application assignment. Okay, the objective. I need to know for the application assignment is what is your objective, what do you want to answer, what questions you want to answer basically with the questions you're asking. So some of it may be, employee satisfaction. There may be something you're really focusing on, like a new training program at your organization, or just overall, how do you like your cafe, your food services? How do you like the parking? It could just be everything included. Or you could just focus your 25 questions on one specific thing that you want to do, okay? Make sure to have the introductory statement, right? And then we had that sample that you can go back to. And think about the ordering of the questions. Okay, and this is what we call the funnel approach, general to specific. Okay, the funnel going down, so you start off with easy answer questions, kind of go general to more specific in your categories. You might have like an intro question, a main question, and then you can get into, you don't have to do psychological lifestyle questions. Those are optional. Like, do you like to, a lifestyle might be, are you an achiever, or are you, more laid back? You can go online and get all those. There's all bunches of lifestyle questions you could ask. Demographics, I will ask you to do some demographic information, age, ethnicity, those kinds of questions that describe who you are, age, household income, or demographic as well. Ordering, and just be, positioning your questions in the right ones. The sensitive questions should be toward the end. And then structured responses. I'd like to see a couple of different types, like the multiple choice, the Likert scales, dichotomous, that's yes or no, two, yes or no. Yes or no questions, you can have a couple of them, but I would avoid those only because yes or no is, you don't get a lot of information. You don't get a depth there. And the scales, don't forget the different varieties of scales that we have that we can use. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Inability to answer. Okay. You can always add a don't know or a neutral, like I don't have a feeling about any of this. Filter question measures familiarity and past experiences before questions about the topics themselves. So that's something to think about too, is you can add in something to kind of set the stage. Remember, unwillingness to answer it can be a problem. Sometimes if you word something so long and filled with jargon, it can be very difficult to answer. Put sensitive questions in. I know I've said this 3 times now. Put response categories in, and use those yes/no questions sparingly. You can always put in that option a yes, a don't know, or no opinion. There's a thing called being exhaustive. So if you're doing a multiple choice, here's your list you can choose from. You should always have other, just to capture all the possibilities out there. So remember to make all your questions exhaustive by adding in other. And you may have just one open-ended question, and that's really easy to do. What's the typical thing you see at the end of a survey that's open-ended? Meaning you're not forced responses like select, strongly agree to strongly disagree, or a yes or a no. Those are forced response questions. So what's an open-ended that we could put at the end, you typically see at the end of a survey? Anybody online? Oh, yeah. Well, that would be asking for specific information. So identifying who you are. So no, not quite.
Additional comments?
Yes. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add? Additional comments? So a way for, if there was something on the survey, let's say employee satisfaction, and they didn't ask me about parking. Now, gosh darn it, I have had a horrible time with parking at Utica College, and I really want to talk about parking. That would give me that outlet, and I would be very appreciative of it too. It's like, hey, we got to do something about parking. Okay, so that's the easy way to take care of that for your assignment, is just, additional questions. Okay, we're going to get into the wording in just a minute through our assignment. So there are all different types of issues to be, what is that one? Define the issue. Okay, one other thing is to be aware of this concept called branching in a survey. And that's when you can embed, it was a computer, like online survey, you can embed skip logic. Are you age 18 or older, yes or no? And then if it's, no, I'm not 18 or older, then you skip, thank you for filling out the survey. And you just skip all the questions because they're not adults and you want only 18 or older. So that is the skip logic. So if you're, have something like, do you own a car, yes or no? If it's no, you may have to skip over the next 3 questions that we're asking you more questions about car ownership. Okay, so make sure that you embed those instructions clearly that, well, obviously those next 3 questions don't apply to you, so don't answer them. Okay, so that's the last thing I want to mention to you. I do know in past that has been an issue in some of these questions where you ask, you know, do you have certain things? If you say no, and then you continue asking more questions, you're biasing the results because people may still fill them out for whatever reason, even if they don't own a car. So anyway, I know I've given you a lot of information and I haven't had a chance to ask questions. What about this assignment? The assignment, again, will be designing your own survey. And if you work somewhere, think about something that you could design for a place that you work. And if not, how about doing one for Utica College? Maybe a student survey, a satisfaction survey, something like that. Or, you know, you can make up, you could do a Wendy's employee survey. But it's usually what we usually focus on is employee survey structure. And again, how could we get useful information? Okay, so make sure we have that introductory paragraph that explains the purpose and some of the other aspects of the survey, contact information, time to take the survey, how long does it take, et cetera, and some of these other things that we've been talking about tonight. So anybody have any questions? I've been rambling for 40 minutes. I just want to make sure. Yes.
Mick?
Yeah.
Yeah, the assignment document on Engage gives like a fake company, Questar Financial Services, to do it for, so we can pick a different one if we don't want to do that.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm glad you bring that up. Yeah. You can do it on your own, you know, workplace if you're in a job. And again, if not, you can use what's provided to you, or you can make up your own organization.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Well, we have a breakout assignment then. And again, if you do have questions, once you get a chance to look at the chapter application assignment, feel free to email. I have no problem getting back to you on this stuff. What we're going to do now, though, is I have our breakout assignment, and it's basically on what do we do with the wording? And this is essentially an assignment that we're going to do in our Hangouts, our group Hangouts. But the way this is set up is most of the questions are from a tobacco control conference. So these are officials from Oneida County Tobacco Control Commission or whatever, and they're at this conference, and so the conference is got a survey that they want the people at this conference to fill out. Now, when that scenario changes, you'll see a note in there. So let's just take the first one where you see it's not. I'm not saying they're horrible, but there's better ways to ask questions to get better data. So for the first one, be specific. What are you asking people to rate? So let's look at this one. The first one says, please rate the following speakers as excellent, fair, or poor. And then I have a list of 4 speakers' names. Now, think about this. If you were in a conference, okay, and you had spent the whole day there and you had listened to all sorts, you know, maybe a 2-day conference, and you've listened to maybe 12 speakers over the conference time. Do you remember who those people are name-wise? Maybe not, you know. I mean, I go to them and, you know, after I've seen a few speakers, they all start to run together for me. Okay, so that's one thing is, you know, I don't remember their names, but I remember what they talked about. So in this case, it might be better if we had reformulated this question and asked them, you know, let's do take the excellent, fair, or poor. Put like 3 columns, excellent, fair, or poor, and then the title of their presentation with their name. Okay, and that way you can, and then you go over one line, and then you can click yes. Because if I said, am I saying, are they all excellent, fair, or poor? Okay, it's a badly constructed question. But if I created 3 columns, excellent, fair, poor, and then each line has the speaker's presentation and name, it would have been a lot easier to answer. And you just say, oh yeah, excellent, that guy was excellent, okay, yada, yada, yada. So you can see how, okay, put yourself in the mindset of being a conference attendee and trying to answer these questions about your own experience at a conference. Okay? Now, Mr. Matt, you got some groups for us?
Yeah, online folks, check the chat. Carmen, you'll be in group 1, Derek will be in group 2, and I will open up groups 3 and 4, and you can swing around.
Okay. Okay, very good. So how questions? We did question 1. Okay, so respondents should be able to answer a question. So was the presenter an expert in her field, or was the presenter knowledgeable about the subject? What's a better way to answer that question, or position that question? Okay, think about it this way. Presenters that come to a conference, how much do you know about them? About their background? You know, how expert do you know them? I mean, they just come there, you assume. Huh?
Just what they put in the bio.
Yeah, you're just going under the assumption of whatever they're there, they therefore must be an expert or something of that nature. So what does it matter if they're an expert or not? Doesn't really matter. What matters is how are you benefiting from the information they're giving you, right? So wouldn't it be better to know, were they good at giving you good information? So did the presenter effectively answer questions from the class? Could be a question, you know? What else did you all have? Group 2.
Did you easily understand the presentation?
Yeah, okay, that's good. So again, getting back to were your needs met as a conference attendee, okay?
And we also had the presenter convey a strong knowledge of the subject matter.
Right, yeah. If they are an expert, hopefully they knew about the topic that they were talking about. Okay, the next one, avoid questions with more than one answer. So this gets into this whole concept of double barrel questions, putting in more than one question into a statement. So this one says, please tell us if today's session helped you set clear, reasonable goals for action with the collation that you are within your control, that are within your control rather. Okay, so what might be a better way to construct a question that is asking for a couple of things? Anybody want to throw out what your group came up with? Is there a better way to construct it?
Like, it can be the same question, but the answer can be strong agree, somewhat agree.
Okay, a Likert strongly agree to strongly disagree. Okay, so were you able to? Okay, were you able to set those goals? Okay. How about you, Derek? Your group?
We separated the question into did the session help you set clear goals, yes or no, set reasonable goals, yes or no.
Okay, all right. And here's another way is, what were those goals? You know, list your goals, and also what would be your action plan to meet those goals, okay? So, wow, if you got information like that back from your conference that, whoa, based on this information that we received, we know what our goals are and we know what our plan of action is, okay? Very helpful information. Okay, from group, let's see, 3. May I have someone that can talk about, don't you think teenagers, is this the next one, don't you think teenagers, is that the one we're doing next? caught with cigarettes should be fined in order to prevent them from smoking. What about that question? Group 3.
For group 3, we said that it should be like an agree, neutral, or disagree
Yes.
question.
Okay. And do you feel that maybe at the top it says avoid loaded or leading questions? How is that biasing the response by the way it's worded?
Because it's saying, like, should they be fined? It should probably just ask, like, what do they think should happen?
Yes, this phrase at the beginning, don't you think, is a leading question. So you got to make it more neutral to the respondent. Okay, so instead of saying, don't you think, should teenagers, caught smoking, be fined? Make it, take all the other stuff out that is leading the respondent. So very good, thank you. Okay, the next group, group 4. Avoid jargon and acronyms, so confusing wording. What would you do to improve this question? Group 4, anybody want to take the lead? Do you have someone we can pick on?
Tony.
Man, why you call him? I think what we did was, obviously we would just take out the acronym. We kind of try to Google what that TWC.
I made it up.
Oh, okay. So take out the acronym. But what we did was we just said, are you being informed sufficiently about the quit line?
Okay. All right. Would it be what kind of a forced response category would you have for that? Would it be yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And one other thing is to capture all the data, yes or no may not do it. So you could also have, I never received the information. So have you been adequately informed? Yes or no. Or I didn't even get any information. So that might be another one. It's not that, whether you've been adequately informed or not. Okay. How about this problem with double negative? Oh, do I hate wording that includes double negative? So do you agree or disagree that teens should not be fined for not obeying the local outdoor smoking ordinance? I automatically get confused when I hear double negative. Okay, so how can we make that an easier, clearer question? Let's circle back to Derek's group.
We changed the wording to fining teams will encourage them to obey the local outdoor smoking ordinance, and then a Likert scale.
Okay, perfect.
Strongly agree, disagree, and strongly disagree.
Okay. Now, the next one is asking you to avoid embedding response options within your question. Okay, so here's the forced response, kind of thing. Do you agree or disagree that smoking should be banned in public buildings? Carmen's group, how do you get rid of that for, the response in the question? So what would you do to change that?
The smoking should be banned in public buildings.
Yes.
Strongly agree.
Okay, then the scale there.
Yes.
Right. So you just take it right out, you just leave the question, should smoking be banned in public buildings, or buildings should be banned in public buildings, and then the Likert scale, strongly agree and strongly disagree. Okay, how about anchor your questions in specific behaviors? Okay, so this one is, do you emphasize leadership in your local FAC chapter? Now, the FAC chapter stands for Fight Against Corporate Tobacco Youth Group. Okay, so, when we're talking about this, how often, if we're talking about actual people's behaviors, what might be a better way to talk, phrase a question that will be getting at what these kids or what this program is actually doing for people. So let's do group 3 again. Anyone from group 3 that would like to take a stab at this question?
We said to take out the acronym and like to make it kind of like a scale, like minimal leadership to 5 being they emphasize a lot on leadership. We weren't really
Okay.
sure.
Okay, so you're getting at, what kind of emphasis do they actually put on leadership within their programming? Okay, that's good. So you're really getting at that behavior, which is better information than a yes or no, yeah, they do it. Well, how much do they do it? To what degree? So that's good. You could also reword it as how often do they, teach leadership? And then you could do, annually, quarterly, monthly, weekly, or never. Same kind of Likert scale there. Okay, do you provide your employees with information on how to quit smoking? Now notice again, it's a dichotomous response, yes or no. And yes or no is fine, but you don't get a lot of depth in the understanding really what's going on. So yes or no questions really aren't super good. It might be better to rephrase this one as well. So how about our spokesperson for group 4? What would you do with that to get at behaviors rather than yes or no?
Which one for the first one right there?
Do you provide your employees with information on how to quit smoking? So it's the second one in the anchoring your questions and specific behaviors.
I guess it should be like, what methods do you use to provide employees with information? Email, flyers,
Okay.
was it brochures?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, that would be fine. Yes. Or programs or something like that. You could also say, how often do you provide your employees with quit smoking information? So yeah, so now you're getting at actual behaviors, which is much more interesting data-wise. And then do your response options make sense? Okay, so we don't have a group 5, right? Okay, so I think I just did 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so back to Derek. On this one, what is your religion? What? There's a problem with this. Our responses are not, there's something wrong with our responses. Did you guys pick up on that?
Yes.
What is it?
Catholic, Lutheran, and Episcopalian are all Christians.
Yes. So it's very confusing. Do I put Catholic, or do you want me to do Lutheran, or you want me to circle both of them? Yes. So that's one thing is maybe what we should have done is, you could have had a Catholic, a Protestant, you can have Islamic, Lutheran, Jewish, and Islamic was not even mentioned. Okay, so that might be something we might want to expand beyond what's even there.
And we included another.
And yes, could be atheist, couldn't it? It could
If we
be.
had that on our list.
Okay, and yeah, there could be people that like a-religious, and I don't have anything. I'm an atheist, I'm nothing, Yes.
Would prefer not to answer. Would that be appropriate here?
I think you could do that, or people would leave it just blank. They may just skip over it too. So you can always offer to give them an easy out if you want. But data, people want that data, so we don't typically provide the easy. We just make them skip over. Okay, very good, Derek. Response options should provide reasonable ranges. Okay, so in Carmen's group, what do you think is the effect on one's health of secondhand smoke? Harmless, somewhat negative, very bad. So those response categories are not as helpful as if I'm sure you came up with something better.
And like more scales, like very harmless, less harmless. like
Yes, more, add more in there, because from harmless to very bad is okay. I mean, and then, somewhat negative, but now you notice that harmless and then somewhat negative is actually getting closer to the very bad. So again, very harmful, somewhat harmful, not at all very harmful, and not at all harmful. So again, just like that liquor, from very strongly agree to strongly disagree. Okay, group, yeah, just one thing that I just wanted to make sure, we're going to just do one more. And what is wrong with the income question? Where it's this problem of not being mutually exclusive, is what they say in research. So what's the problem with what's your annual income?
the gap between 5,000 to 7,000, and I think also the question, like they were saying in my group, closer income rangers, like
Yeah,
they can
it's
go
just weird.
from 15,000 more or something more.
Right.
No,
Yeah,
that's
less
just
than
that.
20,000 or 15,000, and then increment and it, go like if you do less than 20,000 and then 20 to 39,999, and then 40 to 59,999. So that you've got the right categories. The other thing is there's overlapping here, because less than 5,000, and then you notice the next one says 5,000. So which one do you circle? The less than 5,000 or the 5,000? And then notice the 5,000 to 70,000. 70,000 and 70,000 are overlapping in these two categories. Again, confusing. You don't know which one you're supposed to be circling. So if you're at 70,000, where do you belong? So be careful that you don't have any overlapping categories, and always exhaustive in it and other if you have to capture all the data. And that's all the time we have for tonight. And again, don't forget, I might be a little bit difficult to reach through Engage after Thursday, but I'll be available through my email. Okay? All right. And we'll see you all next week for the final session. And it'll be fun. Hopefully we'll have some good times.